rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. There are two fundamental questions that we need to ask today based upon the stories that I'm going to be talking about on Jackson's 5 headlines. And that is, who's really running the country? That is one question that we need to be asking. Who's really running the country? Another question is, are we a nation of laws or are we a nation of man? Meaning, are our laws, the laws that we're following, the nation's laws, are we holding to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights? Are we abiding by those laws, or are our laws arbitrary? Do people get to just make them up as they go? And if they do, then we don't have a country. This is not the United States of America. Are we a nation of bureaucrats, or do we, the people, have a say? That's what we need to find out. That's what we're going to talk about. All right, now stay tuned for program messaging. All right, let me introduce you to my new sponsor. That is Birch Gold. 2022 was the stock market's worst year since 2008. Inflation is hamstringing our economy and our savings. If you've been following the news, you know the Fed keeps raising interest rates because it's the only tool they have to keep inflation under control, but it's not working. This administration is addicted to spending, and it's turning a blind eye on the consequences. Don't wait until your savings lose more value than they have already. Hedge inflation by owning gold from Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold is the foremost authority on precious metals and IRAs. That's right. They will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And here's the best part. It's tax sheltered. I love that. To learn more, all you have to do is text Carl, my name, C-A-R-L, to 989898 and receive a free info kit on diversifying into gold. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied customers, you can trust Birch Gold to protect your savings with gold. Again, text Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold. Again, text Carl to 989898 to do it today. All right. Guys, let's get into this. I want to play video from you for you right away. There's several topics that we're going to be talking about today. And again, we're asking the fundamental questions: who's really running the country? And are we a nation of laws? Are we a nation of laws, or do people get to just make the rules up as they go? If people get to just make the rules up as they go, we don't have a republic. That's what I want you to understand. We do not have a republic. These people, like the fascist Faucis of the world, they must be punished. This news, actually, I talked about this news a long time ago, but we've gotten to the point where the House Oversight Committee has confirmed the news via emails, and that is that Fauci was involved in manipulating data of as far as the COVID origin is concerned, but we'll get to that. That's going to be one of the stories that we're talking about. So emails show that Fauci prompted a study to disprove the coronavirus originated from the Wuhan lab. The first thing we're going to be talking about, Tucker Carlson and his J6th videos, which we're going to roll for you just shortly here, Gabe and I, and then we'll comment through those. Also, 4 Americans have been kidnapped while traveling to Mexico for medicine. Guys, I don't know that the media and that many people understand how powerful this story is too. We'll break that down. The Southern Poverty Law Center lawyer, or a Southern Poverty Law Center lawyer, is charged in the Atlanta Cop City domestic terrorist attack. We'll talk about that. Also, the Treasury official that's set to testify on Biden family's suspicious wire transfer previously worked for Joe Biden. Can you believe it? Talk about political incest. We're getting to all of that, but I want to start with this. Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the J6 videos. Let me set it up real quick. Tucker Carlson last night obviously he got exclusive video from now Speaker Kevin McCarthy into what actually happened on J6. And the information that he shared, or the video that he shared, I'm going to share with you. Guys, I want you to subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. For those of you that aren't on YouTube, I'm on Rumble as well, The Carl Jackson Show as well. All of our social media. This information has to get out. It has to get out. It has to be seen. You have to show friends, families, family members, and foes. Everyone needs to get this information. The mainstream media is not sharing this information, and I guarantee you, they get their hands on this video, what they'll be doing is manipulating the video like they've done from the very beginning, because they don't want the truth to get out. The truth is, whether it comes to Officer Brian Sicknick, the officer who the left claims was killed by J6 protesters, totally not true. We knew that was a lie. We all knew that this guy died of a stroke. God rest his soul, but he died of a stroke, all right, or complications from a stroke. But not only that, on J6, this video evidence will prove that Ryan Sicknick wasn't even in the confrontation where he would have been tear gassed. He was inside of the Capitol building. The J6 committee knew this all along. So I say every single one of these people on the J6 committee, as well as Dr. Fauci and as well as Dr. Francis Collins, should be booked. They should go to jail. They should be handcuffed. That is not hyperbolic. Either we have a nation of laws or we do not. And it's sickening what's happening. Ray Epps was there all the time. The whole time. We're going to play, that's in there. The shaman, the guy that was dressed crazy. Did you know he was a Navy vet? You know, he is a Navy vet serving a 4-year sentence. The video that you'll see will show you this guy did nothing. Now, we don't know how he got into the building. That's what isn't shown, but I suspect that might have been edited, because the guy was literally walked around by Capitol police officers showing him where he could go. Absolutely insane. Senator Josh Hawley was running through the Capitol. You had the mainstream media lying and saying Senator Josh Hawley was a coward. This very guy that encouraged an insurrection. By the way, there was no insurrection. There was no one armed there except Capitol police officers and probably some FBI UCs. But Senator Josh Hawley running, turns out they edited the video, the J6 committee did, to make Senator Josh Hawley look like a coward, like he was the only one running after he had encouraged this insurrection. When the truth of the matter is, again, the video was edited and dozens of senators ran out before him. As a matter of fact, it appeared as though Senator Josh Hawley was the last to leave the building. Let's go ahead and roll the tape, Gabe. Let's go ahead and dive right into this, because we've got a lot to cover that I want to get through in a very short period of time. So let's go ahead and start rolling the tape.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful, they were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists, they were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile.
Let me go ahead and butt in now, Gabe, for the sake of copyright infringement. When we play these videos for an extended period of time, just for you guys that are watching on YouTube, that may be listening via audio, we have to break them up so that we don't get in trouble as far as copyright infringement is concerned. This is a Fox News product, and so I just want to make that emphatically clear. Again, this portion of the show is brought to you in part by Birch Gold. Again, text Carl to 989898. You can do it today. Make sure that your money is secure. For God's sakes, this administration is destroying this economy. You want something tangible. Birch Gold will give that to you. Text Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898. Let's go ahead and finish rolling this video, please, Kate.
They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're going to make that the story.
Of course, they did make.
Okay. All right. So again, this is Jacob Chansley. This is a guy that was known as the shaman. You heard him give a prayer and thanking the Capitol police officers for the opportunity to come into the Capitol building. All right. So before we proceed with this, guys, I do want to talk to you about our sponsor, For Patriots. All right, forpatriots.com. Forpatriots.com is where you can go. A food shortage could be coming our way right here in the U.S. of A. Experts wrote this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, and even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food has become increasingly important. You can create your own stockpile of the best-selling survival food by going to forpatriots.com. It's not ordinary food. It's a 25-year super survival food. It's hand-packed in a family-owned facility that creates American jobs. 200 employees that they have. The kits are compact. They're sturdy. They're water-resistant. They stack easily, and they're ready to go in just 20 minutes. All you have to do is add boiling water, simmer, and serve. Guys, be prepared. Make sure that your family prepared, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a Democrat disaster. You want to make sure. We've seen the supply chain shortage hit us big time, and I feel like I'm starting to see that reoccur little by little. Make sure that you're taken care of, all right? Make sure that your family is taken care of. Go to forpatriots.com and buy yourself a survival kit. Right now, you can go to 4Patriots, the number 4Patriots.com. Use the promo code Carl, my name, C-A-R-L, to get 10% off your first purchase. This includes the 3-month survival kit. You'll get a year-long guarantee plus free shipping on orders that are over $97. And you'll have the added benefit of knowing that a portion of every sale goes out to help a charity that supports veterans and their families. All right, so take care of veterans and their families. Take care of your family. Forpatriots.com. Let's go ahead and roll the tape here, Gabe.
Get the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building, But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened.
All right,
But
and the J6 committee knew about it all along. Is there more video, or is that the end of it in its totality, Gabe? That's it. All right, so unfortunately, there was a second video. I could not, or we could not find the second video in time for the podcast, but I do want to add this to the video. There's more video that Tucker Carlson exposed yesterday, and we'll try to find that for you and have it up for you tomorrow. But it wasn't just this. It's the video of Officer Sicknick, a very important piece of video. We thought we had it, and we got confused with the video. So that's very frustrating, I must admit, and that's totally on me here. But Officer Brian Sicknick, you know, the officer that the left claimed J6 protesters killed. It's just a total lie. You had commentators, MSNBC, CNN, everyone. All right, J6 protesters basically killed this guy, killed 5 officers in total. All of that was a complete and utter lie. As a matter of fact, there's now video evidence that Tucker Carlson exposed on his program showing that Officer Brian Sicknick, not only was he not in the middle of those heavy confrontations that were shown all across mainstream media. Now, and let me just offer this. Those numbers, although those people were cray-cray, and those people that broke the law deserve to be held accountable for the laws in which they broke. They should not be held as political prisoners. Whatever the law is, vandalism, whatever, that's what they should be. That's what they should have been arrested for. But there are far more people that weren't doing jack squat, that were peaceful, just like the videos that we just saw of Jacob Chansley, or the shaman that he's known around television circles. But Officer Brian Sicknick specifically, to get back to him, he was inside of the Capitol building, all right, literally telling people where to go, acting nice. Remember, he was a Trump supporter himself. His family were used like useful idiots in order to perpetuate this narrative that the J6 protesters came in the Capitol building and there was this big insurrection, wreaked havoc all over the place, tried to stop an election. Complete and utter lie. Ray Epps was more video. You guys know the guy. We don't know if he's an FBI UC, an undercover agent. We don't know if he's an informant of the FBI, but it's obvious that he was trying to stir trouble in the crowd. So now there's video evidence depicting Ray Epps. The J6 committee said that Ray Epps had left the scene after one video that we saw earlier of him on the street telling people, let's go to the Capitol. Total BS. This guy was in the front of the crowd leading up to the Capitol the entire freaking time. And now there's video evidence to prove it. He never left. And the J6th committee, along with including Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, Congressman Benny Thompson never showed that. They omitted all of that. Those people are liars. This is evil. This is the epitome of evil. These people have no soul, no heart to allow people to go to jail and rot away based upon their lives because they hate Trump so much that they want to create a narrative. These people have too much power and they should not get to walk away. They are all still employed either in Congress. Liz Cheney is a professor somewhere at this point. She should be fired and cuffed. Kinzinger, the same thing. These people should not be allowed to get away with us. When is this government going to turn around and work for us again? We have the opportunity in 2024. We better not hire anyone that isn't willing to cut this government down to size and give us control. I'm sick and tired of reform this institution, reform that institution. No, we need a damn amputation of these freaking institutions. They've gotten too much power. Too much power. Now, I want to move on to Fauci. Gabe, do you have that video ready of fascist Fauci and what he did, or at least Congressman Jim Jordan talking about what Fauci did, because emails now show that Fauci prompted a study to disprove the coronavirus, that the coronavirus originated from the Wuhan lab. And I'll get into detail with that. Gabe, do we have that audio or that video ready to go? Okay. All right, so while Gabe gets that video ready to go, sometimes you have some technical difficulties. Let me bring you the story, all right? Hat tip Breitbart. Now, I can honestly tell you that I talked to you about this story a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it was either AM Greatness or the Federalist that had brought this story to light. Perhaps it was Revolver News. I can't remember. But one of these places I researched had this evidence a long time ago, frankly. But it's making big news because now you have the select committee that has discovered this email. Gabe, you just tell me when and if the video is ready, and then we'll go ahead and play it. Meanwhile, I'll just continue to talk here. All right. So here's the summary from Breitbart. All right. So Dr. Anthony Fauci, the fascist Fauci, prompted the draft of a study to disprove the Wuhan coronavirus lab leak theory was quote unquote improbable. Emails from the select subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic released on Sunday. So the emails indicate that Fauci again prompted a study. In other words, he encouraged it, right? In other words, he orchestrated it. This study on a scientific paper that was written in February of 2020. Once we realized that we were being hit, the United States was being hit with this virus, this guy prompted the scientific paper, to disprove the leak had come from the Wuhan lab in China. Why would he do this? The emails also show, according to Breitbart, that Fauci had final approval on the paper. So he created the fake scientific paper to disprove that COVID-19 had come from the Wuhan lab. This was a pure CYA move. And I want you to answer this question. Again, I go back to the fundamental questions. Who's really in charge of the government? Who's really running the country? And are we a nation of laws? If we are a nation of laws, this man, Anthony Fauci, should be arrested. He should be arrested. This is more evidence that we have these bureaucratic agencies that are running our federal government. Imagine the audacity of this guy. This guy got up in a White House press conference. When was it? I think it was April 17th of 2020. This guy in a White House press conference got in front of the then president of the United States, Donald Trump, and also at the time, then Vice President Mike Pence. And then here's what he said, and we'll play some video for you. I think this is of Jim Jordan. It was harder to find this video for some reason on Fauci this morning, but here's what he said. He says, and I quote, "There was a study recently where a group of highly qualified evolutionary a virologist looked at the sequences. This was the team that he created to create the paper to try and disprove that the Wuhan lab leak theory, because he wanted his boss, former President Donald Trump, to look bad, and he wanted to cover his arse. This guy should be in jail. I don't say that lightly. This guy should be in jail, and he should die in jail. Let me just read this quote over. I'm sorry, getting a little hot here. There was a study recently where a group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequences in bats as they evolved and the mutations that it took to get to the point where it is now. Is totally consistent with a jump, all right, of a species from an animal to a human. This is Fauci, close quote. He goes on to say, so the paper will be available. I don't have the authors right now, but we can make it available to you. This is what he said on April 17th, 2020, in a White House, at a White House press conference. The guy was lying all along. He created the team that created this scientific paper. Let me just go back with a little more backstory to this. The scientific paper was used by Fauci 8 weeks later in the White House press conference to, again, discredit former President Donald Trump, who thought that the lab leak was likely occurred at the Wuhan Virology Institute. You understand how powerful. Think about this. Stop and think about this. Do you understand how powerful Anthony Fauci has to believe he is in order to sit in front of the president, in order to sit in front of the vice president and create this lie? That tells you something big that no one is talking about. Fauci believed he was more powerful than the president because he had been in that position for so long. He knew the ins and outs. He knows how the deep state works. He knows how these bureaucratic agencies work. He knows that a lot of these presidents are just freaking pawns that have no power. And this is why they hate Donald Trump, because he questioned their authority. That's why they hate the man. Imagine the audacity. Fauci emailed the paper entitled The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2 for final approval before publication in Nature Medicine on February 17th of 2020. So now Nature Medicine, I don't know if it's wrong or right to say that they colluded with Fauci, but certainly they didn't do any serious investigation before accepting this information from fascist Fauci. The paper was published days after Fauci and other scientists, including Francis Collins. He was the health director of the National Institute of Health, who he should be arrested and in jail too, by the way. They discussed on a conference call reports that coronavirus could have originated from a Chinese lab and that it, quote, may have been intentionally genetically manipulated. In other words, they knew that their gain of function research had gone awry. They talked about it in a conference call days before this publication. They colluded to lie to the American people. Dr. Fascist Fauci did, and Francis Collins. Who's really running the government, guys? Who's really running our government? The paper's co-author, Dr. Christian Anderson, acknowledged that Fauci, quote unquote, prompted him to spearhead writing the article to, quote unquote, disprove the theory that the pandemic originated from a Chinese lab. How many experts, so-called, were in on this cover-up? Inquiring minds would like to know, specifically this one right here. Anderson emailed the paper to Nature Medicine on February 12th of 2020 and stated in the email that Fauci had, quote unquote, prompted the study. He also went on to say, Dr. Christian Anderson, there has been a lot of speculation, fear-mongering, and conspiracies put forward in this space. This paper was prompted by Jeremy Farah, Tony Fauci, and Francis Collins. So this guy is in on the collusion as well. Absolutely unbelievable. The paper was published by Nature Medicine on February 13th of 2020, but Farah didn't like some of the wording. He didn't like the word unlikely that was used in the publication. The journal had used this to describe the chances of the pandemic originating from the Wuhan lab. he asked the journal to change the word to improbable. So go from unlikely to improbable. You see what's happening? Government colluding with journalists. Can you say fascism? Anyone? Sorry to micromanage, and I'm quoting. This is from Dr. Farah. Sorry to micro edit, he says, / micro edit. But would you be willing to change one sentence? He asked, close quote. He goes on to say, it is improbable. All right. He has that in italics, that SARS-CoV-2 emerged through laboratory manipulation of an existing SARS-related coronavirus. Now, this is absolutely fascinating. So not only do they create the scientific papers to cover their butts that they were doing gain of function and paying for gain of function research in the Wuhan lab, they tell the journalists what to say and how to write. The audacity, the power this little punk Anthony Fauci had, and he knew it. How many presidents had he manipulated over the years? That's what I want to know. How many presidents had he lied to? Let's go ahead and roll the video on this fascist Fauci here, Gabe.
That it took to get to the point where it is now is totally consistent with a jump of a species from an animal to a human. This could not have been artificially or deliberately.
We can go ahead and cut it right there. That's Jordan Secular of the ACLJ and Rick Grinnell. But that's the audio of fascist Fauci completely lying to the American people to cover his butt and to make former President Donald Trump look bad. This guy was an absolute disgusting human being. Now, I want to bring to you another story. This story is absolutely disgusting to me about what's happening in Mexico. We're going to play some video for you. I'm going to comment on this. And I'm going to tell you why I think this is a bigger story than most people realize. Sadly, this is a bigger story than most people realize. Gabe, I want you to get ready because there may be some good stuff here that you want to share and create in the short. I'm just saying sometimes brilliance just flows and you don't want to miss it. All right. So, but this is a very, very, very important story. Guys, if you don't know, 4 Americans were kidnapped across our border while traveling to Mexico for medicine. So granted, they were in Mexico, but I want you to see this video. Guys, please, please, please listen to me. Listen to me. I don't do this stuff in vain. I love you. I want to be in this fight with you. I need your help. I need you to go to my social media accounts. I need you to subscribe. I need you to follow me. All that stuff matters. I feel weird asking all this stuff, but it's just true. This is part of the business, and it does matter. It's the only way that we can grow our reach. We cannot grow our reach without your help. We simply cannot do it. That is just a fact. That's just a fact of life. All right. So please subscribe to our podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify. We really would love your help on YouTube, expanding our reach on YouTube, The Carl Jackson Show. If you guys prefer Rumble, saying The Carl Jackson Show, The Carl Jackson Show on Rumble as well. All right. So please subscribe to these places. Please review, please rate, please like, please be active because you are in this fight with me to restore our Constitution because that's exactly what we have to do. Before we get into this video that I think is very important, I want to bring you news from another sponsor, MyPillow.com. Guys, you got to love MyPillow. You got to love MyPillow. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell comes out with MyPillow 2.0. Mike Lindell, when he invented MyPillow, it had everything you could ever want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he discovered a new technology that makes it even better. That MyPillow 2.0 has the patented adjusted feel, the original patented adjusted feel. So it feels like the original MyPillow, or it had, again, the same inner workings of the original MyPillow, but now with a brand new fabric that is made with the temperature regulating thread. The MyPillow 2.0, it is the softest, it's the smoothest, it's the coolest pillow you'll ever own. I can attest to this. MyPillow 2.0 temperature regulating technology is 100% made in the USA. It comes with a 10-year warranty. It comes with the 60-day money-back guarantee. All you have to do is go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square at the top of the page, enter my name, C-A-R-L, all right, Carl, in that square, and you'll get a buy one, get one free offer for the new MyPillow 2.0. All you have to do is enter the promo code CARL, or if you prefer, those of you that do, you can give them a call, 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263. I'm so honored to have these fabulous American companies backing this show. MyPillow.com, 4patriots.com, the number 4patriots.com, and birchgold.com. Guys, do not forget to get your MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free. All you do is use my name. You are going to love it. If you didn't think the MyPillow could get any better, well, it just did. All right, mypillow.com. Use the promo code Carl. All right, I'm not sure. I'm debating in my head if I want to go ahead and roll this tape or if I want to make my points first. I think this is what I'll do. Gabe, go ahead and timestamp this because this is going to be good. All right, well, I'm just saying. I want you guys to think about this. 4 Americans were kidnapped while traveling to Mexico. So I jotted down. I have this legal pad that I'll use. I'll jot down some of my thoughts and all that kind of good stuff. Did you see that show up in the video, Gabe? That was pretty cool, right? Like, you get an inside look of things, get an inside look of all the work that I'm doing, putting together behind the scenes. Thank you, my formerly fingerprinted fingertips. Listen, 2 things that I want you to understand. This is why I believe this story is much bigger than people will let on. The story of 4 Americans being kidnapped while traveling to Mexico. Guys, I want you to understand. Do you understand how weak the Mexican cartels must perceive the U.S. president of being to have the audacity to kidnap 4 Americans? Maybe they didn't know at the time. They sure as hell know now. We know Mexican President Labrador has spoken out about it. They know. Understand how weak the Mexican cartels believe our president is. And number two, understand this. The cartel.
Carl just got enough from Tony. The Americans were found dead.
Okay, so we just get this just coming in while I'm talking about the story.
2 of them were found dead.
2 of the Americans have now been found dead. 2 of the Americans have now been found dead. Number 1, do you understand how the Mexican cartels are looking at us and looking at our president? They have the audacity to now kill Americans, kidnap them and kill them. The world does not respect us. Mexican cartels do not respect the president of the United States. And they're also telling us another story. Number 1, all right, let me reiterate this because I want to make sure you get this. Do you understand how weak the U.S. president must be for Mexican cartels to kidnap and now kill U.S. citizens in broad daylight? That's the first point. Number 2, the cartels are telling us who runs the U.S. southern border. And it isn't the Mexican government, and it's no longer the United States government. They're saying, we're in charge. You're going to play by our rules. I would tell everyone traveling to Mexico, American, I would tell any American, as long as this freaking dementia patient is in the White House, do not travel outside of the United States, inside of a danger zone, or to a country where they're not technically allies, or if they're just seriously violent like Mexico. Mexico is allies, but obviously they don't have a government running the country anymore. The cartels have taken over because Biden has allowed them to take over with our open border policy. They're getting rich as hell. Their military is just as strong as the Mexican military with weaponry now. Thank you, Joe Biden, you jackass. Let's roll this tape. Good God, I'm getting hot. Let's roll this tape.
Searching for 4 Americans kidnapped across the border. And tonight, the State Department is working to try to bring them home.
As CBS 2's Dick Brennan reports, their kidnapping may be a case of mistaken identity. A nearby camera captured the moment that 4 Americans were kidnapped at gunpoint. They were traveling in a minivan with North Carolina plates when they came under fire. A woman is seen being pushed into the back of the truck by a gunman. 2 more people who appear wounded are dragged aboard. This happened on Friday in Matamoros, Mexico, about a 12-minute drive from Brownsville, Texas. Mexico's president says the Americans were there to buy cheaper medicine, something hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizens do each year. But instead, they ended up in the crossfire between 2 groups. It's theorized they could have been mistakenly targeted.
And we will continue to coordinate with Mexico and push them to bring those responsible to justice.
Matamoros is under a level 4 do not travel advisory by the State Department, the same threat level issued for Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan.
Do not travel. We encourage Americans to heed that advice.
Matamoros is a city of roughly 500,000 people and has been home to the warring factions of the Gulf drug cartel for decades.
And we have a problem across the border that we haven't addressed, and it's violence.
Congressman Vicente Gonzalez of Texas says this isn't the first time this has happened and says the U.S. has to take strong action.
We need a much more aggressive approach. We need to be targeting cartels as if they were terrorists.
All right, so let's go ahead and end. We'll go ahead and end that clip now. The U.S. was offering a $50,000 reward, as if that's going to do any freaking thing when it comes to Mexican cartels that are making freaking millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on their human trafficking, drug trafficking campaign right across the southern border. Joe Biden, let me tell you something. Joe Biden, you're responsible for these dead Americans. I want you to hear this. Joe Biden, you are responsible for these dead Americans. You're a freaking disaster, from Afghanistan to the Russia-Ukraine war to the Mexican border, and now 4 kidnapped Americans, at least 2 dead. You're responsible, Joe Biden, you freaking loser of a president. You're a disgusting, despicable human being and the worst president in American history. You are the worst president. I wish you didn't have dementia. I wish you could understand this. You are the worst president that we've ever had, and you are despicable. You are evil. You are God, I can't even find the words, Gabe. All right. Let's move on, because it doesn't get any better. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to be real with you. I'm sorry. We don't have a president that anyone takes seriously. We don't. A couple of more stories I just want to bring to your attention. The Southern Poverty Law Center. There's a lawyer charged in the Atlanta Cop City domestic terrorist attack. All right, hat tip this from Just the News. An attorney from the Southern Poverty Law Center is facing domestic violence or domestic terrorism charges for his alleged participation in a violent demonstration against a police training center. It's known as Cop City, all right, in Atlanta. Authorities identified a guy by the name of Thomas Webb Jurgens. He's a 28-year-old. He's one of 23 people that were arrested in what they call a coordinated attack, quote unquote, on the facility, during which demonstrators allegedly threw bombs, explosives, fire, rocks, all that kind of stuff at the construction site. They said incendiaries. According to the New York Post, Jurgens is a staff attorney for the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is a scandal-plagued, far left-wing organization that has attracted all types of criticism and scrutiny from its efforts to label high-profile conservatives, such as Dr. Ben Carson, as domestic extremists. This is what the Southern Poverty Law Center does. They're nothing more than a front group for the radical left. All right. But they're a bunch of attorneys. And now here's what we understand about this. There's no difference when it comes to the left, when it comes to these little punk behind commies inside of the United States that work for the Southern Poverty Law Center. There's no difference between some of their attorneys and street thugs. And now we know the real domestic terrorists, the Antifas, the Black Lives Matter. There's no difference between these people that operate inside of a legal office and the little thugs and the domestic terrorists on the street. Do you understand who we're dealing with when it comes to the left? Do not think for a second that we're operating in the same America that we operated in pre-Trump. We're not. We are not. This is a This is a post-constitutional America. I say it all the time. We're fighting to try to restore it because we've lost it. This guy was one of 23 alleged participants that are facing domestic terrorist charges who actually comes from Georgia. There were 35 demonstrators total. Some of them came from other countries, including France and Canada. Who the hell is paying for this? Who the hell is paying for all of this? Last story that I want to bring to your attention. Where is it? Treasury official set Treasury official hat tip Breitbart set to testify on Biden family's suspicious wire transfers previously worked for Joe Biden. All right. So, guys, before I go into this, I just want to offer you a reminder or give you a quick reminder. Please subscribe to our podcast wherever we're found: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. YouTube, The Carl Jackson Show. Please also find us on social media on Instagram. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Getter, we're on True Social. You can find us there. And please support my sponsors, the sponsors for today, MyPillow.com with their new MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free. Go to MyPillow.com, click on that radio listener square at the top of the page, or give them a call, 800-858-0263. Birch Gold. We know that 2022 was the stock market's worst year since 2008. You want something tangible, something that isn't going to disappear, make your wealth disappear. Make sure you call my friends or text my friends at Birch Gold. All you have to do is text Carl to 989898. All right? Text the word Carl, or my name Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898 to get a free info kit on Birch Gold. Also, forpatriots.com. With every purchase you make, a portion of the sale will go to help out veterans, charities that help out veterans and their families. But you will get the survival food you need because this presidency is a disaster. And God forbid we have a natural disaster on top of it. You want to be prepared with 25-year super survival food. Forpatriots.com has that for you. With all of these, all you have to do is use the promo code Carl. Forpatriots.com. That's the number, forpatriots.com. Birchgold.com. All right. Or text them 989898. MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Carl. All right. Last story of the day. Biden Treasury official set to testify on Biden family's suspicious wire transfers previously worked for Joe Biden. Man, talk about political incest. So the Treasury Department official, Jonathan Davidson, who is set to testify this week about the agency withholding the Biden family's suspicious bank records, worked as the Biden-Harris Economic Nominations Confirmation Team Lead in 2020. Good Lord, that's a mouthful. And he was nominated to the position at the Treasury by President Joe Biden, raising questions of whether his testimony will be tainted with political bias. So on Friday, Jonathan Davidson, again, is scheduled to appear before the House Oversight Committee with Chair James Comer, a Republican from Kentucky. And he's going there to answer questions about why the Treasury has refused to provide the committee with James and Hunter Biden's 150 suspicious activity reports. Suspicious activity reports are this, guys. So the FBI, DOJ, our federal government, whenever there's a wire transfer over $10,000, they look at it as suspicious because usually it's drug dealers or criminals of some sort that are doing that. Well, the Bidens did that over 150 times. Oh, man. So yes.
The 4 Americans were found. 2 are dead, 1 hurt, and 1 unharmed.
Okay. 4. Thank you. All right. So all 4 Americans are now found. 2 are dead. 1 is injured, and 1 appears to be unharmed. This is unbelievable. This is unfreaking believable. All right. So again, this last story, basically Biden is corrupt as hell. The Treasury official that's going to be testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee with James Comer previously worked for Joe Biden. So it's likely that he's going to be playing CYA. All right. He's going to cover for his boss. He's going to cover for himself. It says here, considering Davidson will be asked to speak to the Biden family's SARS, their suspicious activity reports, after working for Joe Biden, his partisan work history raises questions of whether his scheduled testimony will be tainted with political bias. It's not even political bias. It's CYA bias. This is straight up, well, it is political bias too, because there's political incest going on. Before serving Biden on the transition team, Jonathan Davidson worked on Capitol Hill for more than 20 years in Democrat politics. Davidson was chief counsel to U.S. Senator Mark Warren, Democrat from Virginia, chief of staff to Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, office where he was reportedly instrumental in passing a tax credit within Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus stimulus package that experts believe greatly fueled the president's 40-year high inflation. Wow, great guy. Upon Biden's nomination of Davidson on the Senate, to the Senate, Bennett praised Biden for selecting Davidson for the role of, quote, president for the role. And he goes on to say, Senator Bennett does, President Biden could not have made a better choice than selecting John to serve as the Assistant Secretary for Legislative Affairs at the Treasury Department, close quote. And there's more incest. Davidson is married with children and reportedly lives in a very expensive Capitol Hill neighborhood. His wife is named Erin Sheehy, and she's a partner at Education Forward DC. That's an organization that seeks to, quote, advance quality and equity in DC public schools, close quote. She appears to hold similar political views as her husband. In 2020, she campaigned for Joe Biden, and she says, and I quote, I'm attending Joe Biden for president's event, Women for Biden weekly phone bank. Sign up and join with me. All right. So a bunch of incest going on. Of course, this guy, this Treasury official, this is what we're dealing with. There's no doubt that if he chooses not to take the fifth, I guess he can't as a government official. I'm not sure about that. But nonetheless, there we go. Treasury official that's set to testify on Biden's family's suspicious wire transfers actually worked for Joe Biden himself. Guys, listen, I'm sorry. Sometimes the news is just horrible, but we got to deal with it. This is part of the fight. We're going to have highs. We're going to have lows. But I hope what I do bring you daily is information that is helpful for you to just marinate on, soak on, and hopefully get you upset enough or motivated enough to make sure that we kick a lot of these bums out and that we as the people start demanding that our government officials cut down the size of the government. Our government is too big. It is too big. I'm sorry. It is not enough. I want to hear Trump. I want to hear everybody on the Republican ticket talking about where they're going to cut. We cannot allow these government bureaucracies to continue to grow. They've grown too big. They've gotten too powerful. Hence, fascist Fauci and Francis Collins. They've gotten too big. Department of Homeland Security. I don't know what the heck they're doing. Our borders are wide open. I don't know why they exist at this point. I really do. They were formed after 2011, try to protect us from terrorism. The borders are wide open. So that isn't working. And this story with the 4 Americans that were kidnapped, now we know 2 dead. One is injured, one is alive. This story is going to continue to get even bigger, no doubt. And the question that you need to be asking there are a couple are not necessarily, but the points that I made is you now understand that the Mexican cartels believe that the U.S. president is weak to do this, to kidnap 4 Americans in broad daylight. They know that the president is weak, and it's a signal. It's a signal. They're running the U.S.-Mexico border. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I think I've told you all the places to go. You know where to find me. Social media, The Carl Jackson Show, YouTube, The Carl Jackson Show. Please subscribe there, guys. We would really appreciate it. And until next time, don't go where you're doing good. God bless you.